3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Welcome back to Fix the Conversation. We're going to be talking about receiving feedback without getting defensive. The last episode was all about giving feedback, right? And it's really great tips on giving feedback. But today is going to be about receiving feedback without getting defensive. Because I don't know about you. Has anybody ever received feedback when they were ready to receive feedback? I'm going to say a big fat no on that. I remember working my tail off, right? And I walk into work and one of the people on my team was just like, hey, I need to talk to you about XYZ on this big project that we were working on. And he just kind of went into all of the things that he didn't like that had been done so far. And of course, I'm sitting there going, I've been working my tail off. I'm freaking tired, right? And then the other part of me was just like, you've had 6 weeks on this information and you're just now telling me as we're to the finish line? Hello, not interested in your feedback. Has that ever happened to anybody? I am certain that it has, right? But here's the thing. Your communication style has triggers. You got to know what your triggers are because when it comes to receiving feedback, it always shows up at a time where we're busy, we're already stressed, we're emotionally drained, we get completely caught off guard. You may not control when feedback arrives, but you absolutely can prepare yourself for how you're going to respond to it. Okay? So feedback doesn't trigger us because it's feedback. It triggers us because it bumps into our deepest fears. Okay. That's when the DISC profile, it really becomes pretty darn powerful, actually. On the last episode, we talked about the various styles, and I'm going to talk about that again today for our new people who are joining us. But we have the dominant style. This is our extrovert who is task-oriented. They are results-oriented as well, too. And they're big personalities. The dominant style trigger is when someone approaches them with their feedback is that they failed or that they've lost control. And I tell you what, one of the biggest triggers of the dominant style is losing control. Okay. So when feedback comes, you have to pause before defending yourself. Okay. I'm telling you, the power of the breath is very powerful. When you know you're walking into a lion's den and things are getting interesting in the conversation and you can feel, I don't know about you, but it's like I can feel the heat rise. I get red. I get splotchy on my neck. I can feel myself getting hot. Okay. And what do we do when we get hot about something? Okay. We just want to come after people, right? At the end of the day, though, that doesn't work. It doesn't work when we come after people. We fracture trust. We disrupt the culture of the organization. It's all so bad. Knowing yourself, knowing your triggers, like this is a big piece of being able to receive feedback like a grown up. Okay. So if you are that results-oriented style, when feedback comes, you've got to pause before defending yourself. And I want you to ask, what's the one thing you most want me to improve? Okay. Just ask the question, what's the one thing you most want me to improve? Especially if somebody's coming at you with a laundry list of all the things, okay? Because a lot of people do that. They come at you with 18 million things and you're like, what the heck just happened here? You feel totally sidelined, right? I'm going to ask for you to just pause for a minute, get yourself together and ask, what's the one thing you most want me to improve? And then you got to take some notes and you've got to resist solving it all immediately. All right. Okay, so you've got to take some notes. What's the one thing you most want me to improve? The influencer style. These people are the extroverts, the people-oriented people, the life of the party type of people. They're there to have a good time. Their fear, their trigger when somebody's coming at them, when it's time for them to receive feedback is, oh my gosh, they don't like me, or I'm disappointing people, which is even worse, right? So a couple of tips for you if you consider yourself more of that influencer style, that people-oriented extrovert life of the party style. I don't want you to confuse correction with rejection. And I'm saying this as we because I'm an ID style, okay? And so I have really had to train myself to not take it personally, okay? And I think that's probably the best way to say it is we tend to take things personally. And we shouldn't. Most of the times, especially when we're working with the results-oriented type, the dominant type, as well as the conscientious type, which those are the more reserved people that are very task oriented. When we're working with task oriented people, the task oriented people are not people oriented people. Okay. So sometimes when they're giving us feedback, it comes across as a rejection of us when really it's just a correction of the task at hand. Okay. So that's what I want you to reframe a little bit, is that the influencer types, we tend to take it personally, but really it's about the task at hand. Okay. So don't confuse correction with rejection. I want you to listen for message, not tone. Okay. Listen for the message, what needs to change, what needs to happen, not the tone, because that's where we can all take it personally. All right. And that's not going to help you either. And then I want you to ask one clarifying question before responding emotionally. And here's the thing. If you consider yourself this influencer type and you are talking with the person who's giving you this feedback is the more task oriented, like the results oriented type or the data analytical oriented type, they do not respond with emotion. We do. Okay. And so you can see where the rub might happen is because we're emotional creatures. They're not coming across as emotional creatures. We can think that they're coming across as a jerk or a butthead, right? And at the end of the day, it's about the task at hand for them. Okay. So I want you to ask one clarifying question and try not to respond emotionally to it, which is really hard to do. I know that I'm asking you to do some really hard stuff here, but here's the thing. We can do hard things. We can do hard things, and we have to know ourselves well and know how we're going to respond and know the person in front of us. Again, if we respect the person who's in front of us, it's about the task at hand. If they're a jerk, they're a jerk. Okay. And not much that we can do about that. And even if they are just a jerk, just to be a jerk, we need to know that about them as well, too, before we respond appropriately. Okay. Now, if you consider yourself the steady relator type, these people are reserved, people-oriented people. They are the don't rock my boat. I just want everything to be calm and copacetic. Okay. They also do not like confrontation. So if we're receiving feedback, we tend to think if you're an S type, the steady relator type, that you're letting everyone down and that something is changing. The other thing about our steady relator types is that they do fear change. Okay. So if they think that something is changing, that is a big fear. That's a big trigger of theirs. Okay. So here's a few tips. Here's what you can do. Take a breath. I feel like I say practice your breathing. I don't care what type you are. Practicing breathing is a mechanism in which to keep us emotionally regulated to where we can receive communication in a calm, regulated way. Okay. So for our S types, for our steady relator types, take a breath before answering. And it is absolutely, in fact, I'm going to say it's 100% fine to say something along these lines. I'd like a few minutes to think about this. I need to process on this for a few. I want you to remember that conflict doesn't equal broken relationships. Okay. It doesn't equal broken relationships. And it is one thing okay to say that you need a minute to process. Okay. Now, if you consider yourself the conscientious type, and these people are the reserved, data minded, highly analytical, highly logical people, they fear making a mistake. So when we are receiving feedback and you're the conscientious style, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I made a mistake. I'm not good enough. Those are the triggers. Those are the fears that pop up. But here's what I want you to think about instead. Okay. Here's a few tips on how to receive that feedback a little bit better. Don't get lost in proving that case. Instead, I want you to listen for patterns, not isolated details. Listen for patterns, not isolated details. All right. What does success look like moving forward? Can you help me with that? All right. So here's the thing. When you're surprised by feedback, which again, we all are because it always comes at the worst time, right? Stop. Don't explain. Don't justify. Don't defend. I want you to get curious. Okay. There are 3 questions that any of us can ask. What are you seeing? Please give me an example. What would improvement look like? Those 3 questions change almost every single feedback conversation. Okay. So I'm going to repeat the 3 questions. I want you to put these in your hip pocket because when we're having a hard conversation, we're receiving really difficult feedback. There are 3 questions that you can ask that will just help clarify things because we don't want to data dump. We don't want to emotionally dump everything either for that matter, because high emotion is not going to get you where you need to be either. So the 3 questions: what are you seeing? Can you give me an example? And what does improvement look like? Receiving feedback, it isn't about agreeing with everything that someone says to you, right? It's about becoming the kind of leader who can stay open long enough to decide what's useful. That's emotional intelligence. All right. And that is what the DISC profile helps us to be able to walk through in a more meaningful way. I hope this information was helpful. You'll have to go back and listen to the episode before when we were talking about giving and delivering feedback. But I hope this episode on receiving feedback was just as helpful because it's so easy to take things personally. And we have to be able to remove the feeling and the emotion out of it and stick to the facts and what might be that next first step that needs to have happen to push us on the path forward, right? All right. Until next time, fix the conversation and you know the girl to go to if you need some help getting it done. All right. Until next time.